Imagine waking up to find the financial rules you've built your entire retirement around have completely changed overnight. Well, according to a recent analysis from the AU Housing Signal channel, that is exactly the reality facing up to 2 million Australian property investors right now. They claim everyday investors are staring down the barrel of some severe, sweeping tax reforms.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to objectively unpack this highly debated proposal regarding Australia's negative gearing laws. We are breaking down the AU Housing Signal's analysis to figure out exactly what's on the table, what it means for everyday people, and why it's causing such a massive stir across the country.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the negative gearing proposal itself, look at the mechanics of the tax change, and then dive into the human and market impacts. After that, we'll cover the strict ATO enforcement methods and wrap up with 3 investor survival strategies outlined by the source.
All right, Section 1, the negative gearing proposal. Let's look at how they're redefining the rules.
The source features Dr. Susan Stone, who perfectly sets the stage for why this is all happening. She points out that the current system gives people incredibly strong incentives to invest in residential property, specifically by allowing them to deduct rental losses directly from their personal income. And according to the budget discussions, the government is looking to target these exact tax breaks.
But before we look at the changes, let's make sure we're completely on the same page. Negative gearing is basically a tax structure where your investment property expenses, think things like interest, maintenance, and fees, exceed the rental income you bring in. Crucially, as an investor, you're currently allowed to offset that loss against your other taxable income, which dramatically shrinks your overall tax bill. Okay, moving to Section 2. Mechanics of the tax change. Let's see how the math actually shifts for investors.
The AU Housing Signal outlines a fundamental ground-up shift. Right now, you can deduct property losses directly from your personal taxable income for absolutely any property, but the proposed rule changes the game entirely. Those losses, they'd be quarantined strictly to future capital gains, meaning you literally can't use them until you eventually sell the property. On top of that, immediate negative gearing deductions would be restricted to newly constructed properties only. To really ground this, the source gives us a highly practical case study. Imagine a nurse earning $95,000 a year who takes a $10,000 loss on her investment property. Under the current system, her taxable income drops to $85,000, netting her a tax saving of $3,200. But under the proposed system, her taxable income stays pinned at $95,000, and that $3,200 saving drops all the way to zero. The channel stresses a really important point here. She's still losing money on the property, but now she's paying more tax too.
That brings us to Section 3, human and market impacts. Let's dig into the source's economic projections.
The channel highlights a data point that might actually surprise a lot of people. 71% of negatively geared investors actually earn less than $80,000 a year. They use this specific statistic to counter the whole billionaire property mogul stereotype, arguing that these reforms are going to squarely hit middle-income earners.
To put a human face to all these numbers, the channel introduces us to Sarah. She's a single mom from Western Sydney making $78,000 a year. Under the new proposal, she would instantly lose her $1,800 tax deduction. Because of that sudden loss, her property holding costs would consume a massive 13% of her entire take-home pay. The source argues that ordinary families like Sarah's are going to be mathematically forced into selling off their retirement assets.
And this triggers what the source predicts will be a severe domino effect across the market. Domino 1, investors who can't hold their properties immediately panic sell. In the short term, rental supply drops sharply as those homes get scooped up by owner-occupiers. The medium-term result? Rents absolutely spike. Ultimately, in the long term, as property values drop from the mass sell-off, total household wealth falls right along with it, which they warn could cause a broader economic contraction. So you might be asking yourself, why would the government implement a policy with these kinds of alleged risks? Well, the channel claims it all boils down to this staggering number, $1 trillion. That is the gross federal debt. The source argues the government is basically broke and desperate for immediate revenue. Instead of cutting their own spending, the channel claims, the government is using housing affordability as a convenient excuse to extract wealth from working citizens and plug a massive budget hole.
Next up, Section 4, strict ATO enforcement methods, data matching and surveillance. Now, if you're thinking about just flying under the radar, the analysis strongly cautions against it. The Australian Taxation Office uses an incredibly sophisticated surveillance network. They are scraping real estate portals, cross-checking state rental bond authorities, and pulling comprehensive bank data.
They literally use satellite imaging to spot undeclared granny flats or pools, add in over 60,000 public tip-offs every single year, and the message is crystal clear. If the rules are bent, the ATO is going to know about it.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, 3 Investor Survival Strategies. Let's look at the legal preparation tactics they recommend.
The channel outlines 3 perfectly legal survival strategies. First, accelerate your deductible expenses, so get those necessary repairs done or even prepay your interest up to 12 months in advance before any legislation actually passes. Second, look into switching your investment portfolio toward new constructions, since those are proposed to keep their negative gearing eligibility. And finally, consider restructuring your property ownership into trusts or self-managed super funds to maximize deductions, though obviously consulting a professional first is an absolute must.
The presenter passionately urges viewers to get educated on this right now. They emphasize that the best opportunities to minimize the impact will exist in the window before anyone else knows it's coming. From the source's perspective, proactive preparation is literally your only defense against shifting government rules, and acting before mass panic sets in is absolutely critical.
We'll wrap up this explainer with the ultimate macroeconomic question posed by the source material. Will restricting negative gearing truly fix housing affordability, or is it just going to trigger a massive rental crisis? It really leaves us wondering about the true trade-offs of this proposed policy. Are we actually solving a systemic housing issue, or are we just shifting the financial pain straight onto renters and middle-income investors? It is a massive, multi-layered debate, and hopefully unpacking this analysis has given you a much clearer view of the arguments at play. Thanks so much for joining me. Keep looking at the data, and as always, keep asking the big questions.